Hi and welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about topical estrogen for skin health and to prevent and reverse skin aging. Estrogen is an often misunderstood and wrongfully feared hormone. We of course know that it is essential for fertility and that once we are past our childbearing years, our estrogen levels steadily decline. However, estrogen is so much more than a hormone essential to fertility. It serves an important role in the regulation of a number of biological functions, including regulating bone density, brain function, cholesterol mobilization, electrolyte balance, the cardiovascular system, the nervous system, and estrogen is very important for skin health. The reason estrogen is critical for skin health is that it not only supports collagen and elastin production by binding to receptors in the skin, known as fibroblasts, but it also enhances hydration via hyaluronic acid, glycosaminoglycans, and sebum production. Estrogen also increases blood flow and it acts as an antioxidant to counteract reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress. I have said several times on my channel that in the first 5 years of menopause, we lose 30% of our collagen. This loss of collagen expresses itself in our skin getting thinner and more lax. We also notice an increase in lines and wrinkles, as well as skin dryness and sensitivity. All of these skin changes are directly related to the steep decline in estrogen as we hit menopause. Now, as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, estrogen is often misunderstood and wrongfully feared. This stems from a misinterpreted study that unfortunately scared many people, including doctors, to believe that estrogen causes cancer. Luckily, we now know that this is not only incorrect, but many now say the opposite is true. Dr. Mathis, who has been on my channel many times, is a big proponent of estrogen, having witnessed the life-changing transformation of many of his female patients, including myself, after their very depleted estrogen levels were restored. Dr. Mathis also often talks about one of his colleagues, an oncologist and breast cancer specialist in Santa Barbara, who is currently running her own long-term study on her patients. And in this study, she has observed that patients who survived breast cancer and were put on estrogen replacement had a lesser reoccurrence of tumors than the ones who chose not to go on estrogen replacement. And a recent paper published by Oxford University reports that menopausal hormone therapy for breast cancer survivors is not associated with breast cancer reoccurrence. So luckily, slowly, estrogen is being more understood and less feared, with more and more practitioners realizing that by denying their female patients hormone replacement therapy, they are not only stifling their quality of life, but are possibly putting them at risk of disease. Personally, I have been on HRT since I was 38 years old, so for 16 years now. And I often tell my husband I would rather not eat than not have my hormones. But while I have been replacing something my body had a very hard time producing on its own for the last 16 years, after doing some research on how essential estrogen is for skin health, I became very interested in finding a face cream containing estrogen. One of these studies I came across in my research was this study right here, showing that systemic estrogen combined with topical estrogen led to greater collagen production than systemic estrogen alone. In this particular study, 15 postmenopausal women who had been on systemic estrogen for at least 1 year applied 0.01% estradiol for 16 weeks. And this study showed that not only was there greater collagen production when systemic estrogen supplementation was combined with topical application, but the study also showed, and this is important, that estrogen levels did not increase any further with topical application. Another study I came across in my research was this study right here, in which either 0.01% estradiol, which was used in the last study we looked at, or 0.3% estriol was applied topically for 6 months, and both led to a significant increase in collagen and a marked reduction in lines and wrinkles. And this study again also showed that no systemic hormonal side effects were noted. So again, in other words, estrogen levels did not increase any further with topical application. So after coming across these studies, I set out to find an estrogen cream either containing 0.01% estradiol or 0.3% estriol. Now you might wonder what the difference is between estradiol and estriol. Estrogen shows up in our body in 3 different forms. Estrogen, also referred to as E1, which is the only form of estrogen our bodies produce after menopause. And estrogen is often referred to as the bad estrogen. Estradiol, or E2, which is the primary form of estrogen our bodies produce during reproductive years. And it is also the most potent form of estrogen. And estriol, or E3, which is the primary form of estrogen produced during pregnancy. And it is also the gentlest or weakest form of the 3 estrogens. Now, while estriol is the gentlest form of the 3 estrogens, as the study we just looked at showed, both estriol and estradiol caused a significant increase in collagen and a marked reduction in lines and wrinkles. However, the concentration of estriol was higher at 0.3% than the concentration of estradiol at 0.01%. So again, after coming across these studies, I set out to find an estrogen cream either containing 0.01% estradiol or 0.3% estriol. Now, this was a couple of years ago, and back then it was quite challenging to find something. A friend of mine came across a German compounding pharmacy, which after getting a script, sold us an estrogen cream containing, I believe that one contained 0.01% estradiol and also a bunch of other active ingredients. My friend ended up loving the cream and having great results. I ended up being really allergic to it. I used it for 2 nights. My skin got so inflamed and red and irritated. In fact, I talked about it back then in a video because my skin was so bad, I had to find something to soothe it. So that cream was out, but I didn't want to give up. So I called my compounding pharmacy where I get my hormone replacement therapy from, and they said, don't worry, we actually compound our own face cream and you will love it. So again, after getting a script, I got a face cream from my compounding pharmacy. That one contained 0.3% estriol, and I believe also some other active ingredients such as niacinamide. Now, that one luckily I wasn't allergic to, but my skin didn't love it. I couldn't use it every single night. When I tried to use it every single night, my skin became very sensitized and red and a bit irritated. Not like an allergic reaction, but it was just too much for my skin. So I used that one every 3rd night. I used up 1 container and then decided this was also not for me. But again, I didn't want to give up. So I got another script for a different estrogen cream, and that one I actually have right here. And this is actually by the Wiley protocol, which is what I use for my hormone replacement therapy. This contains 0.01% estradiol, and it also contains, I believe, insulin and T3. This, just like the previous one, I couldn't use every single night. I was actually only able to use this, and you can see I didn't even use it up. I was only able to use this maybe once a week. If I tried to use it more than that, again, my skin really reacted. Not an allergic reaction, but it just became very sensitive. So after this one, I thought maybe estrogen cream for my face is just not for me. Then I had Dr. Hunter, a dermatologist from Beverly Hills, California, on my channel. And Dr. Hunter is also a big proponent of using estrogen to replace our hormones. And she mentioned in that video to just use a bit of what we use for hormone replacement therapy, mix it into a cream, and apply that to our face. So after talking to Dr. Hunter, I ordered this cream right here. So this is not a face cream, but actually a hormone replacement therapy cream. And this contains 5% estriol. So for a while what I did is I just used a small pump of this and mixed it into my moisturizer and applied it at night. And that worked fine. I didn't have any irritation. However, since I was a bit unlucky with the previous 3 estrogen creams I tried, I didn't even try this every night. I only used this, I think, every 3rd or 4th night. Again, I put a bit in my moisturizer and mixed it up. So while that worked fine, I wasn't too crazy about the method since I didn't quite know how much was I actually getting. Like I said, this is 5% estriol, and I really wanted to mimic the studies using either 0.3% estriol or 0.01% estradiol, and I just didn't know how much was I getting when mixing this into my cream. Then about 4 months ago, I saw a video by Penn in which Penn talked about an online service she had come across, which on top of doing online consultations, also sold an estrogen face cream. I was immediately intrigued and right away went to the website Penn had mentioned, and I have to say I was quite impressed by what I saw. The company is called My Alloy, and as I mentioned, not only do they sell an estrogen cream, but they also offer online consultations. Now, I am very happy with Dr. Mathis, but for those of you who don't have a Dr. Mathis or whose doctors are not willing to listen and prescribe HRT, this might be a great resource. I have not personally tried it, but again, Penn talks very highly about it, and she has also interviewed some of the doctors associated with this company on her channel. If you have not seen those videos, they are definitely worthwhile watching. I will link them down below. But I went to the site solely for the estrogen cream, which I have right here. To get this cream, I did have to fill out an online questionnaire, which was then reviewed by a doctor before this was sent to me. I have been using this for about 3.5 months now. This is my 2nd container, and 1 container lasts for 3 months, using it nightly. So this is my 2nd container. This was just sent to me about 2 weeks ago, and I have to say I really like this cream. Not only does it luckily not irritate my skin, I can actually use this every single night and have done so for the last 3.5 months. Aside from the nights I medical microneedle and a couple of nights after that. But aside from that, I have been using this every single night without any irritation. It feels really nicely hydrating and soothing on top of not being irritating. So this contains 0.3% estriol, as well as some hydrating glycerin, anti-inflammatory oleic acid, and vitamin E. But no other active ingredients aside from the 0.3% estriol, which I appreciate, because I do think that it was all the other active ingredients in the other estrogen creams I tried before that was just too much for my skin. Now I know you're going to ask me, can I see a difference? And that is always so hard to answer, because I use so many different things, including tretinoin, which is of course a very heavy hitter. However, on my neck is very sensitive and it doesn't like any actives. So on my neck, I really can't use tretinoin more than once a week or so. I can't use any vitamin C. My neck is really, like I said, very sensitive. On my neck, I have been using this every night, and I do think my neck looks a little bit less crinkly. So I do think I can see a bit of a difference on my neck. But as far as my face, it is so hard to say. But the studies I looked at and the results of those studies are too promising to not incorporate this into my skincare routine. Now, if you want to get even more results from your estrogen cream, you could combine it with glycolic acid, as was done in a randomized double-blind study. For this study, 65 postmenopausal women applied either a cream containing 0.01% estradiol, 15% glycolic acid, or a combination of the two. And after 6 months, they actually took a 2 millimeter punch biopsy, which showed that the estradiol treatment produced a 23% increase in epidermal thickness. The glycolic acid treatment produced a 27% increase in epidermal thickness, and the combination of the two produced a 38% increase in epidermal thickness. So combining your estrogen cream, again in this study, a cream containing 0.01% estradiol was being used. With glycolic acid, in this study, they used a cream containing 15% glycolic acid, led to even greater skin changes than just using estrogen or glycolic acid alone. Now, 15% glycolic acid, for me personally, that is quite high, and I definitely could not use that every single night. However, I do use glycolic acid with my estrogen cream, but I only use it about 2 or 3 nights a week. Now, if after watching all of this, you would like to get the skin benefits from using estrogen, but for whatever reason don't want to use estrogen, there have actually been a couple of studies on a compound called methyl estradiol pronate, or MEP, which is, unlike estrogen, not an actual hormone, but instead a combination of ingredients that acts as an estrogen analog, which activates estrogen receptors in the skin. And these studies actually look quite promising, showing a significant improvement in younger patients, meaning they hadn't been in menopause for very long. And in these patients, improvements were seen within 8 weeks. And women who had been in menopause for longer showed improvements by week 20. Now, MAP is a compound found in a product called Emapel, which is available without script over the counter, and they have different formulations, including a serum and a cream. I actually tried Emapel a couple of years ago, and while I like the formulations, to be honest, I didn't try it long enough to see a difference. For me personally, it just made more sense to just get something like this, since I already use hormone replacement therapy. But again, if for whatever reason you don't want to use estrogen, but you still want these skin benefits, then something like MAP found in Emapel might be perfect for you. Now, lastly, I mentioned earlier that with topical estrogen application to the face, estrogen levels did not rise. And you might wonder, how is that possible? I wondered about that myself, because as I mentioned, I use hormone replacement therapy. And while this is not it, my hormone replacement therapy comes in a syringe like this. It is a cream, it is transdermal. I apply it to either my inner arms or my inner thighs. And if I go to a lab a couple hours later, I can definitely see that my estrogen levels have risen. But since I use it every day, they stay nice and stable up here. But definitely with topical application of my hormone replacement therapy, my estrogen levels rise. However, as the studies we looked at showed, with topical application to the face, estrogen levels did not rise. Now, as far as I understand it, the devil is in the dose. So this again is 0.3% estriol, or in other studies 0.01% estradiol was being used, which is a very, very small dose compared to what I apply to my inner arms or inner thighs. So because this is such a small dose, it stays localized where you put it. And again, estrogen levels do not increase. So I hope that makes sense. Now, if you want the benefits of an estrogen cream, but you don't want to get this particular one, or you live outside the United States, I do believe this is only available inside the US, then remember, it doesn't have to be this particular cream. Just look for an estrogen cream, either containing 0.01% estradiol or 0.3% estriol. I do think that they are quite widely available at this point, probably in every country. I do think in most countries you would probably need a script or go through an online service like I did, but that's fairly easy. And if you would like to get this cream, I actually reached out to the company after using this for 3 months and asked them could they give us a discount code, and they said yes. So I will link the code down below, and the code is good for the estrogen cream and or their services. Again, I haven't tried the online services, but again, Penn talks very highly about it. So if you need somebody to listen to you, to prescribe you some HRT, definitely check out those services. So I hope this video was helpful. I would love to know, do you use an estrogen cream on your face? If so, which one? And have you noticed any benefits? Do you combine your estrogen with glycolic acid? If so, let us know down below. Any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Always love to hear from you. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye.